everybody. Craig DeLuz here. Booze with DeLuz. We are still having a good time. As you can see, Mike has found his way back to the table with some libations, and he appears to have brought a friend with him. Folks, you have got to hear this story. Now, this is John Napolitano. He has I called it originally, I said he's got a case that he's dealing with in New York. I think Mike more appropriately titled it.
This is a horror story, folks. This is a horror story.
This is definitely a horror story. So, John, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So, I live in New York, Long Island, New York, in Farmingdale. I'm in the middle, I was in the middle of a divorce. So I came home, my lawyers told me to change the Wi-Fi password to the house. So I changed the Wi-Fi password. My wife immediately called the police, and the police came, and I was actually shocked they came. I'm like, I heard her on the phone. I'm like, they're not going to come for that. And they were there quick. They were there faster than if your Wi-Fi goes down. So
they got there before the cable company did.
So the guy literally, talks to her. He's like, did he hit you? She goes, no. Did he threaten you? Raise his voice? Nope, didn't even raise his voice. Just change that password and I want it. So the guy looks at me. I'm like, you could waterboard me. You're not getting it. So my lawyer told me this is what to do. Is what I'm doing. So he's like, well, I got to fill out a report. I'm like, okay, you guys want like water or something? They were super nice to me. I was super nice to them. I really didn't think much of it. I got a call the next day from Pistol Licensing with a warning that I had a domestic incident. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that wasn't a domestic incident. I have cameras with audio that recorded the whole thing. I'm like, so if you guys want to rehear what happened, they're like, no, I'm looking at the police report. It says that you never raised your voice and the whole thing, but we're just giving you a warning. I'm like, all right, I don't know what that means. So then she called again because I took the knobs off the stove because my son was playing with them. He was 2 years old.
You bastard.
And when the police came...
Wi-Fi password. And then you took the knobs off the stove. You are a cool individual.
Well, here's the best. When the police came, they said to her, they go, do you watch the news? I'm like, no, she doesn't watch the news. So like, there's a apartment building in the Bronx that burned down. 13 people were killed because a little kid was playing with the gas stove. So he goes, Amazon makes these things. And as he's talking, I show him my phone. I'm like, I ordered them, but 911 comes faster than Amazon. So he goes, don't give her those.
Barely.
Yeah. Barely. Yeah.
He goes, don't give her those knobs back, and writes the report. And it was, I subpoenaed it. It was in my favor. And then she called again because she couldn't get into the laundry room. And it was 2 feet of snow, and the police came and blasted her for calling. And they said to me, they're like, did you lock her out? I'm like, no, but you could just walk around the back of the house and come in and get it and open it. He goes, well, why didn't you do that? I'm like, because I fucking hate her. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm just sitting on the couch watching TV.
That's why the divorce is coming on.
So I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. If she would have asked me, I would have done it. But instead, she dialed 911. I'm like, now you guys deal with it. So they screamed at her. The next day, the police called me, the pistol department, and they're like, hey, whatever guns you have in the house, you need to take down and bring them to us. I'm like, I don't have any guns. I left them all at Dark Storm Industry, which is at FFL. For the last 6 months, I drive to a competition, I pick up my guns, I drive back, I drop them off. So he goes, okay, so we'll just come hand in your ticket. So I go down there and I talk to him and I go, listen, man, when do I get it back? As soon as she's out of the house. It's okay. I call my lawyer. I had to pay her $10,000 to leave. I pay her the 10 grand. I immediately go down to the police. I'm like, hey, look, here's the paperwork. They go, okay, if she doesn't, if we don't come to your house in the next 12 months, we'll then start an investigation. That'll last 12 to 16 months, and then we'll make a determination. You should have your guns back about 3 years.
Yeah, which is, what's that called? Tyranny? I think that's what
I think that's what they call it.
So is that a place in New York, Tyranny, New York?
It is. It's right near Terrytown.
So I actually told the police, I'm like, I actually agree with your policy, right? If you guys come to the house 3 times, there's a knee-jerk reaction, but now what I need is due process. Right? Like within 30 days, I need to stand in front of a judge, and that judge say, hey man, you're a piece of shit, you can't have any guns, or you're okay and you can have your guns.
And that's the problem with the red flag laws, the seizure laws. Craig, you and I have talked about this at length. you want to protect, and I get that you want to protect.
Right.
But if you don't include due process,
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
You don't include due process. You know what you end up
Right.
with? You end up with, oh, as soon as she's gone, we'll give you your guns back. Oh, 12 months after she's gone, we'll give you your guns back. Oh,
No.
12 months after she's gone, we'll start an investigation.
And maybe you'll get your guns back
So my
if we haven't
problem.
destroyed them by then.
Yeah.
And I think people outside the gun community should try and appreciate, if you're walking down the street and you somehow have a run-in with the police and you can't get due process
Right.
in anything you do,
Right.
This world would be a much different place.
If they can take away a constitutionally enumerated right with no due process, what else can they take away from you without due process? And that's the big thing here about whether it's the red flag laws or even in this case some of these domestic violence cases. I'm like, I look at, for example, domestic violence misdemeanors. I'm like, if what someone did is so bad that they need to lose their fundamental constitutional right, then it ought to be a felony.
Absolutely, they should be in jail.
for sure.
It makes absolutely no sense, except that, well, that's a right they don't care about. They don't care about the Second Amendment. They don't care about your right to keep and bear arms.
Well, how about this? I was never charged with anything. I never committed any crime.
What you hear all the time is when there's smoke, there's fire. And I'm sorry, and I've heard that from a life in government work.
Yeah.
When there's smoke, there's smoke.
Right.
When there's fire and smoke.
Yeah.
Right.
When there's smoke, it's only smoke. And that's what you get a lot of times in domestic cases. Whether it's the man or the woman or whatever it happens to be, they're going to use whatever they can to gain the advantage, and that includes using a red flag law to make you look bad and having your firearms taken away from you and your inability to protect yourself or your family.
Right.
I'm also shocked that if you call the police 3 times for those are not things you
Right.
should call the police for. I felt like she should have been charged with something.
Something. Anything.
How are you calling the police because you can't get Wi-Fi? Go to McDonald's. They have Wi-Fi.
Right.
Starbucks has Wi-Fi. It's not your constitutional right to use my Wi-Fi.
So where's your case at currently?
So I hired Robert Bean as my attorney. They had one court date that I didn't have to go to, but I did, and it went before a judge. The judge basically said, hey, and I'm paraphrasing, like, what do we need to do to get this out of my courtroom? So my lawyer said, not only do you have to pay legal fees to date and give him his guns back, but we also want this policy changed so it doesn't happen to people behind him. Because that was really my main goal in this. It's not just to piss away money to get my guns back.
You probably weren't the first person that this happened to.
No.
And if you hadn't done what you did, you wouldn't be the last.
So I think I'm the third one coming through, and again, I don't know anything about the law except what my lawyer tells me.
Right.
So the court has already been ordered 2 times not to do this, and on the 3rd strike, now he said, and this was going in, he's like, this is going to cost them money, which they don't want,
Right.
and not money to me. They're going to get all kinds of fines.
Right.
So you'll be the guy that could change this if you want to fight it. So I'm $25,000 in. We go to court. The judge basically tells them, why can't he have his guns back? At least his long arms. Like, why would you take his long arms? They can't explain any of it. So the judge said, this is going to cost you guys. Like, I'm gonna put a fine on this. I'm going to knock it down to a magistrate, and I'm going to basically do whatever they say. And then we walked out, and it goes before the magistrate, I think in April. But both lawyers came out, and we all kind of talked because the other lawyer on their side was, he's like, I would have gave you your guns back, but it's not up to me. And then he goes, and we're totally screwed because the magistrate that it got knocked down to is very pro civil rights, and this is a civil rights case, and this is coming from the opposing side.
Right.
And we see this a lot, folks.
Right.
You see. When we understand this, you get a liberal judge, you get a Democrat judge. They legislate from the bench, no matter what the law says. They want to legislate from the bench. Conservative judges interpret the law.
Right.
Conservative judges interpret the law. Liberal judges, they litigate from the bench, and that's it. It's done.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm glad to hear that things are going well. I'm glad to hear where can folks kind of follow you and kind of follow more about kind of where things are going on this?
And you're shooting. And you're in
So it's my Instagram page is my name, John Napolitano. It's Napolitano. And I had a GoFundMe page on there. I'll put it back up. I raised about $7,500, I think. I paid the rest out of pocket. it really wasn't a money issue for me.
Right.
I think I'll win that money back. My lawyer says whatever you win, it'll take about 10 years before they ever pay you. But my goal is really change this law, moving forward. And what I was hoping for is if I could change one law, one policy, and they can't do that again, and maybe I get a little bit of street cred, I could do a real GoFundMe and say, hey, let's see what else they're doing and what else, and maybe we could start gaining ground on them.
Build that wall.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I wanted to tell you, I thank you for doing what you do, because what happens too often is people just say, well, you know what? I'm not going to fight it. It's going to cost me too much money. It's just too much. It's too much of a headache. And what they don't realize is that when they cave into that level, that tyranny, it emboldens government to do even more. They're like, well, we've done it to a bunch of people and nobody's fought it, so we're going to keep doing it. And it's going to keep getting worse. And it only ends when guys like you stand up.
Well, in everyone else's defense that it's happened to, some people just don't have 25 grand to get their guns back. And that's not fair, right? I'm lucky enough that I have the money to get my guns back and maybe change some policy. But what about people that live paycheck to paycheck and they enjoy shooting once in a while on the weekends? You take that guy's gun, he can't ever get it back.
Nope.
So I'm actually proud that I can maybe stand up for people that can't afford to do what I'm doing.
Well, you have much to be proud of, so thank you so very much. And
thanks
for joining us this evening at the party and for coming on Booze with DeLuz.
Thanks, guys, man. I really appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, everybody. That's going to be it for this edition. We'll be back, obviously, with some more interviews and some good friends. So you guys take care. Have a good time.
Man, it's probably easier with these on to talk to you. Let me know what I could do to promote your stuff.
All right. Excellent.
Let me see if I got a card. I don't know.